All right. Good morning, everybody. So today's class, thanks for coming. Uh, so today's class, we're going to talk about the luxury open house. And those of you that know me or kind of seen my style know, well, there's different types of open houses, obviously, and different price points, but we're going to focus on luxury listings. So not that this couldn't apply to regular listings, but some of the stuff is going to be expensive and time consuming and you'll need some help with. So um, you may not get volunteers on your typical $300,000 condo. Um, but that said, you can just scale things down. But keep in mind, this would be for something that, let's say, like a two, three, $5 million kind of a home. And what you're trying to do is do something that's really different, really special, that's going to set it apart and set you apart. And then we'll talk about the goals as well, whether it's trying to sell the home, trying to get clients, or if you're a team, trying to recruit team members or, people in your downline for revenue share. Okay. So if you have any questions, you can just come off mute and speak up, or you can probably just do that. It's easier for me to see that than the text. So let's dive into the presentation, and we'll provide the presentation as a reference after this and also post it up to our private Facebook group too. So let me share button always goes away. Okay, so should be working now. Me up in the corner. So this is here's the presentation. Let's get into it. All right, so it's a formula, right? And that's true. So you should look at each. I mean, generally speaking, everything you do, I always encourage agents to take a creative approach to it. Certainly, open houses uh, is something you should just try and do differently, right? Everything you do, you should try and stand out and just do differently. Because when you're different, people will be attracted to that. Well, they're not always attracted to it, but they'll notice it. And that's kind of the key thing in marketing. Any kind of marketing is getting noticed. Um, okay, so this is kind of what we're going to talk about. Good morning. Good morning. So I'm calling them elevated events, and that's really how you need to think about it, right? So, and then the mission is to sell the house, obviously, to attract other affluent clients. And that could be consumers or that could be part of farming. Again, it kind of depends on which kind of open house you do and what the goal is. And then the recruit agents. It is a performance. That's the key word to take away from this. It's a performance, right? The home is one of the actors, and you are one of the actors or actresses. So everything you do, someone's watching, right? Whether it's how you greet people, um, well, back up, how you invite people, how you greet them, what's going on at the open house, and how you follow up. It's all a performance, and it's all an audition for you as a listing agent or as a team leader if your goal is to attract. Um, so here's the summary. Just transform your open houses from ordinary showings into extraordinary experiences that drive results. So that's the key takeaway that this is a performance. Okay, so choosing your format. So most people do open houses and it's the first one, right? Consumer focused events, right? It is you're in the MLS and it is broadcast MLS wide. So first of all, if you don't know how to do an open house, make sure you put it in the MLS, and then that gets syndicated to all of the sites like Zillow and Realtor and Redfin, and then brokerage. Anyone that has an IDX syndicated feed. Um, and it'll advertise it on there. And some brokerages or some sites, boost it up in the algorithm when you have open houses. So some agents do a scheduling trick. Well, they'll schedule, an open house every Saturday, right? And 5 days before the open house, they cancel it, right? But it maintains it, it boosts it in their algorithm so that when you go on Zillow, it's one of the first homes shown because you have a scheduled open house, right? So just a little pro tip there if you haven't figured that out. But most of them are the consumer focused events, right? The second one is agent exclusive previews. So basically, that's a broker's open, right? That's a fancy way of saying a broker's open. Um, So the intent there is, well, two things. If it hasn't been listed yet, you're doing a preview within your brokerage, right? So you've got a large enough agent count internally, or like EXP, we have our agents here, but then there's other agents within Sarasota, Manatee County. So you can invite them, right? It can be an unlisted property, and you can advertise it within your brokerage and have a brokerage preview, right? So you'll see some brokerages do caravans where they have all their unlisted and listed properties, and they'll go from one to one to one on a set day and do a caravan. Um, more common is you do a broker's open and it's like a night, right? Usually, and we'll talk about this, I think, but Thursday nights is generally the best night to do that, right? Kind of after hours, but not too late, right? Kind of at the hour where if I'm an agent and I'm doing some things in the office or I'm doing some work, I'll do that kind of when that's complete, but it doesn't necessarily interfere with dinner, kids, Netflix, whatever, my personal time at night. So usually that's like between 4 and 8 o'clock, right? Anywhere in there. I'm not suggesting you do a 4 hour broker's open, but that's kind of the sweet spot, right? So Thursday evenings, between 4 and 8 p.m. Usually I do them for like 2 hours. It's not to say you can't do it on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, or if it's a special event, we'll talk about that. That might depend on the venue. Um, Sorry, not the venue, but your catering and scheduling and the event itself. Maybe you want to do like a Sunday morning brunch or something like that. And then the last one is hybrid events. Okay, so that basically is both, right? So it is a broker's open. So you're inviting all area agents, brokers, sometimes vendors, but you're also going to invite targeted individuals, consumers, right? So neighbors, prospects that you feel might be interested in the home, prospects that you are just trying to make a connection with. Um, Maybe you've got a farm and you're going to send things to that farm and invite them specifically, or you're going to door knock before the event, and invite them. So the hybrid event is when it is agent and broker focused, but you are going to have some, I'll say, hot leads or more interested parties attending, right? It's not just we're out for a Sunday drive and we see an open house sign and we're going to stop in. That's not the audience, right? Because you're going to be spending money on these, so you don't necessarily want um, Joe off the street to come in and get a glass of champagne and eat your expensive appetizers, um, unless you want to, and that's obviously up to you. So that's really the three events, right? So consumer focused, agent broker focused, or a hybrid. I never recommend doing a broker agent event and opening just the public because it just becomes a free for all, as we kind of touched on. Okay, so lead protection tips. All right, so right away, um, a question is, all right, I've got brokers and agents here, but I also have high ticket, high interest clients attending, right? So what prevents Mary from Remax from meeting one of my clients that is there and trying to sell them the home, right? Valid question. And that is a concern. And if you don't take steps to prevent that, that could be a tragic story of one of your open houses. So here's some things that I would recommend doing. First thing on there is color-coded name badges, right? So this kind of assumes that you've got some help, right? So you've got someone that is, I'll say, kind of working the door, or a greeter or a hostess type of a position. Um, that when they come in, if it's an agent, they get a purple, right? If it is a consumer, maybe they get a green. If it's a VIP, maybe they get a gold, right? Whatever the badge is, um, have a few colors and make it so it's not so noticeable. And certainly don't tell anyone about this. And when you're checking somebody in, and I always say check people into this. Don't just let people come in and wander. Because again, this is going to be a, one, two, five, $10 million home. So you're going to give them a code, right? And then and don't tell anyone else that when you see a green VIP, that's someone you need to go talk to, right? And when that happens, if you're the host or whoever, when you give out a green VIP, the next thing you're doing is you're going to walk them over to the agent, the listing agent, and introduce them and say, "Hey, this is Mr. and Mrs. Jones. They live down the street. They thought, whatever." So, and then you're going to do an introduction then, and then that'll give you an opportunity to seal the deal, right? Give them your card, make sure they know you are the one to talk to before Mary from Remax, slides in with a glass of champagne. Um, okay. Again, so concierge staff for VIPs, we kind of talked to that. Um, but let's say it's a really nice, it's a $5 million, $10 million listing, right? You're going to enlist help from your agents or from your friends, from your colleagues. Remember, this is a real estate activity, so it can't be your spouse, right? It has to be someone that's actually licensed. Um, but you're going to basically, get them to help you, right? So maybe when a VIP comes in and you're not available, or listen, maybe it's a big event, there's 30 people, or you're already talking to somebody, there's an agent dedicated that will come greet them and kind of give them the tour. Um, and we'll talk about what kind of things you give them. Hey, Carlo, no coffee this morning. Okay. So the feed went out again. Okay. Yeah, crazy that it does this. Hold on, guys. It really just disagrees. It says no signal. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. So again, you're going to assign a VIP person to them, another agent that's going to show them around. You've obviously given them the details on the house, but again, it's just if you're a VIP client and that is someone that lives on the street, right, or is buying, or they're going to come look at the house later, or they really have interest. Maybe they ask you a few questions. Um, so they're going to get a dedicated person, right? They're not just going to be allowed to come in and tour the house on their own and walk around. Now, they may say they want to do that, and that's fine. Whatever their requests are, you have to honor it. But this is, kind of a very important person. Um, okay, so exclusive sign-ins. Sorry, it looks like it's cutting off some of the, having all sorts of deep problems here on the text there. Um, okay, so always register people when they come in, right? Now, if it's an agent, less important. Take down their name because you're going to follow up with them as well, but it's going to be more like, do you have clients for this property? Blah, 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 right? Or if your intent is to recruit, then obviously you're following up with them on like, see what our team does at our open houses. Wouldn't you love to be able to do this sort of thing too, right? And that's your recruiting pitch. Um, but if they are a consumer, um, what I recommend doing is have a QR code, right? So they sign in, right? They literally will sign their name. Have them scan a QR code. Have them take out a phone, scan a QR code, right? And put in their information there, right? And then that will that will feed directly into your CRM, right? It may not be automated. We can talk through how to do that automated, but you've captured their information, right? And then you're able to follow up because with everything, the magic in this is the follow up, right? And how you send the video, thank you email, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But this is your chance, right? When they come in and it is an event like this, and listen, we'll talk about how to set it up. But if they valeted their car and they're going to get champagne and it's an ordeal, they're going to sign in, right? They're not going to give you a hard time about telling who they are and scanning. And just make it part of the process, right? Just be matter of fact about it. Whoever that host is, um, they need to be very matter of fact about, okay, take out your phone. I got something for you to scan, just run through it like this is normal. Um, but have them scan the QR code is usually the easiest thing to do. And then they can just put in their name, phone number, and email address. And that's it. Then you've got them, right? You haven't got them, but you've got their information. Okay, so whisper follow-ups, right? So we're going to talk about this in a second. So what is whisper follow-up? Um, that's a great question. So let me get back on shares here so you are not completely lost in what I'm saying. So the last one on here is whisper follow-up tools, um, tags, sorry. So let's talk about that specifically. Okay, so basically, you're basically going to tag them, right? So when they check in, um, you're going to put a little code next to them, right? And it just gives a description of what their status is, right? Because when they check in, again, the hostess is a very important person, and if it can be you as the listing agent, that's great. And maybe then you hand them off to VIP agent concierges that show them the property. But whoever the host is, they need to be very outgoing, obviously, matter of fact about signing in and welcoming. Um, but assign them kind of a code, right? And I've got some examples on here. VIP kind of my definition is very interested. Seller mentioned their home down the street is coming to the market, blah, 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 right? You're going to ask them probing questions. How did you hear about it? Where are you from? What brings you to us this evening? That sort of stuff. And whatever you gather from that, put them in a category, right? And that way, break it down. I've got four categories. Um, that way, it just gives the agent that will be following up a little more information about who they are, where they come from, what the lead is. Now, obviously, you can write this all out if you have time to do that, but if this is a busy event, whoever's hosting, and especially if it's you as the listing agent, you're not going to have time to make all these notes, right? And it's not when you become successful at this, it's not realistic to remember all this stuff. Especially me, I've got a terrible memory. Um, so I literally thought Justin was David last week, which was embarrassing, right? So yeah, whatever. Thank you for forgiving me. But that's just me. But if you listen, if you're like Rain Man and you can remember all this stuff, more power to you. But I just say, come up with some tags and then, put that tag next to the person, whale or neighbor or whatever that is, ghost lead, right? And then that way, whoever's actually following up, has the tools and the information to be able to do that. Okay. So this is kind of my recommendation. So when your RSVP list, right? So you're going to send out invites to this, and my recommendation would be to use some sort of a third party service. Again, so this is like your hybrid event where you're inviting agents, you're inviting VIP clients, neighbors, that sort of thing. How do you reach them, right? Agents and brokers is easy. Um, you can subscribe to third-party services that basically, will do that for you, right? They mine the MLS or the realtor boards and come up with whole lists of every agent that's in Sarasota County, Manatee County. You can actually, most of them, you can like say, I want agents that live in this zip code or this neighborhood. Um, what I typically do is just invite everyone in Sarasota, Manatee County. And that's like 8,000 agents. So it can be expensive if you keep, because usually these services charge on per person emailed. Um, I'm not aware of one that does unlimited. If there is, let me know. Um, so anyway, so you're going to reach them. You're going to invite them. I use Green Envelope or Greenvelope. I think it is greenvelope.com. It has templates for the invites and you can modify them. And then you can do fancy things. It like you get the email and it like opens the envelope and it just has like a wax stamp and kind of all the stuff that I do for expensive pre-listing presentations. It mimics that like in a digital format, obviously. So that's what I like to use. They have different subscription levels. I think mine is like up to 5,000 agents in one event or people. Um, So that's what I use. But whatever, what I wouldn't recommend doing is just getting that list and then sending out a blast email, right? The more times you email from your email address to mass audiences, it is more likely to get flagged as junk mail, and then you'll end up in people's junk mail from now till eternity. So, just kind of a pro tip is always protect your email, your domain. The more crap you send out, the more you get identified as sending out crap, right? So, when you send something like that out, and even when you link your accounts to those services, I think it actually gets sent by them, but it just mimics like it came from you. But if it doesn't, if the service you subscribe to sends it from your email address, um, then I always recommend going on Gmail or something and getting just a crap email address, right? If your email address is carlo.salerno@exprealty.com, maybe it's just carlo.exprealty@gmail.com. Like you could go on Gmail right now and get that for free, right? A free email address. Okay, but anyway, so when you're sending things out and you get RSVPs back, start putting those in categories, right? And I've got them as different colors, right? So buyers are blue, agents are green, sellers are red. Um, Go back and share this. Uh, Press vendors are purple, right? So let's say you've got some vendors that really just either they get the word out or they're very active on social, or they'll post about being there. Invite them. That's great. That's great to have someone there. Friends, influencers, you can invite friends to these. That's okay. If you think that there's not going to be enough people attend your event, invite your friends, invite your family, tell them to act like they are consumers, right? Um, just kind of fake it until you make it with some of this stuff. Um, but color code them, right? And then when they get to the event, you got an RS, a list, right? Now, if they're not on the list, obviously let them in, right? Unless it's a consumer that obviously just saw a sign and said, "What's this party going on?" Probably wouldn't let them in. But when they get there, you'll have a pre-made list. For one, it makes people feel important. If their name is on a list, oh yeah, we were expecting you. It's great. And it's just another touch point, and it's another excuse. They're checking you off. Oh, it's a process. So then you can naturally pull out your phone, scan this, right? It's just another way to start that introduction. But give them again if they're buyers, maybe you're doing the name tags and those are color coded, and this is probably the colors, or give them a wristband. That's cool too. People like wristbands. You can go on Amazon and get wristbands. Um, but just make sure that they are visible, right? So when there's a room full of them and they don't know, right? And don't make a thing like, oh, you're a VIP, you get a black. Don't do that. Just give them the thing. Like act like they're getting one just like anyone else, right? They won't even notice that theirs is different unless the people right in front of them got a different color. And these are all adults. If they're fighting over colored wristbands, then something's wrong. But that way, as you're in the room, because again, you're the listing agent, you are, it's you're busy, you're entertaining, you're charming, you're probably having a glass yourself. You might go over and you're nibbling on some whatever. Um, Very busy, right? So you want to be able to look around the room at an instant and just be like green, green, red, like okay, agent, agent, don't care about them. Oh, black. Okay, I haven't met them yet. I'm gonna walk over, right? So it's very visible and it's noticeable, and it gives the person attending, it makes them feel like, okay, this is actually some sort of performance, right? Um, okay. All right. So let's carry on here. Okay. Remember this is an experience, not a showing, right? So this kind of gets to the heart of how to look at these things. Um, Most agents miss the mark, and even for regular open houses on a regular property, they'll just, they'll put a sign out, um, and that's it, right? Very few of them will go the extra effort of maybe you have some water, or maybe you've baked some cookies, right? That's great. I would say everyone does that, but not everyone does that. Like that's only like a 10% sort of thing. So if you're doing that, that's you've already beat the 90% of agents. Um, but maybe you look at it differently, right? So maybe when they come in, you have them do a task in the house, or you point out something very specific and be like, you really need to check out something in the kitchen. When you come back, let me know what you think, right? Just something that like, okay, gives them a task, right? So they're going through the house, they've got a little task that they need to do. Um, or you can go all out and have an event at your regular open house. Maybe you've got music, you've got candles, you've got scent diffusers. Really trying to hit the senses, right? Um, so just do something different, even if it's just a basic open house. But if this is an event, right, where it is brokers, it is agents, VIP consumers, neighbors. You're inviting a couple agents that you want to join your team, or they really, for us, it's EXP. So they're what's what is this EXP sort of thing, right? And Carlo's like, hey, I got an open house. Come, you'll see. You can get a chance to meet some other agents and mingle, right? So these are like important people, right? You don't want to just set out cookies at an event like this, right? You're going to have press there, right? If this is a $5 million, $10 million home, and come talk to me about this, but you're gonna invite someone from Sarasota Magazine or the Sarasota Observer or the Business Observer, and they love, trust me, they love to get free shit. They will come for drinks and food, and they may or may not do a story about the property. Um, that it does help when they do that, obviously. But if there's something special about the property, they always will. But it's good for them to be there, right? For one, when that person is in the room and everyone's like, well, who's that? Oh, they're from Sarasota Magazine. Oh, okay. Especially sellers and potential clients love that sort of potential exposure, right? And you can say it, maybe you're talking to one of those VIP clients and person from Sarasota Magazine walks by and you introduce them and you're like, hey, this is Mr. and Mrs. Jones from down the street. This is Fred from Sarasota Magazine. You guys should talk this, whatever, right? It's a great introduction. It makes you seem like you know people. And again, if you don't know how to do that, that's fine. Come talk to me. Um, it's not very difficult at all. So, um, okay, so let's talk about the visual experiences. So plan every sensory element of your event. So right down to, obviously the smells, the tastes, they're going to get that visually, right? So when I do like a big event like this, we might actually do like a step and repeat that has the brokerage stuff on the back, or we do a red carpet. Red carpet is a cool thing to look at and be like, oh, this is different, right? We have all those resources, so don't go buy that. Come get that from us. Um, touch, I don't know that we really do anything with touch, right? I don't know. Maybe have some furry carpet on the wall so people can run their fingers up and down it and soothe their senses on the way in. But you get my point, right? Touch every single point, especially smell, taste, obviously, but visually, right? Okay. Curate the atmosphere. So what am I talking there? Besides the scent and the refreshments and stuff, um, I always recommend having some sort of music, whether it's live and that if that's appropriate, right? Maybe you've got a violinist or a pianist, pianist or a guitarist, something like that. This is going to sound terrible, but those people are starving for income, generally speaking, right? So it's not expensive to have a guitarist there or something like that. Um, what does our guitarist charges for? I don't know, 200 bucks, something like that for 2, 3 hours. Um, Now they may not always be playing, right? And maybe that's part of the struggle, right? You get what you pay for, but they're all talented people. I digress. But so there's something that when you walk in right away, you're hit with the hostess or the host. You've got this experience and welcoming thing, and you hear this background, and there's people, and there's whatever, champagne and some appetizers. So again, it's just a whole experience, right? You're really trying to cater to all of that. Um, okay, and then elevate with luxury touches, right? So things that reflect your brand, right? Maybe you've got a logo or you've got a specialty or you've got a niche, um, things that reflect you. And if you don't, that's fine. There are EXP and EXP luxury. And we probably need to get an EXP luxury step and repeat made just for future reference. Um, but things that remind them that it's not just a house, it is your listing, right? It is a performance. Everything needs to be you, right? From the moment they walk in, if they're a VIP client or if they're a VIP agent you're trying to recruit, they're being introduced to you. You're going to have a discussion with them. They're given a pamphlet that has your stuff on it. They look over and they see your logo, that sort of stuff. So there's just a constant visual reminder. Um, okay, let me move on to the next here. Okay, so experience-driven strategies. Okay, what does that mean? That is the so what of the event, right? Humans are they need to be entertained, right? So they need to expect like to expect entertainment or there's got to be some performance production value in almost everything we do. And I'm the same way, right? Although I watch boring crap on TV all the time, but um, treat an open house the same way, right? It is an event. So if you are an agent, and especially if you're a higher performing agent, you are not going to go to a broker's open, just a run of the mill broker's open, right? Now, unless you have a client specifically looking at that house or the house that has the open has a very specific feature that you have a client for, right? Otherwise, if it is just a run of the mill, two, three, $4 million listing out in let's say the Lake Club or something like that out in Lake Ranch, um, I'm not going to it. My time is more valuable than to go learn about some $4 million house that I don't have a client for. I probably won't have a client for anytime soon. I'm just not going to go to it. Right now, you will get agents because there are a lot of agents that just go to all that stuff. Right. And trust me, there are agents, especially in our board, that every single event, let me get off screen share so I can talk trash about some agents. Every single social event they are there. They are emceeing it or they are in attendance and they are wearing their realtor pin and they're this and they're that and they are all about, right? That is not me. That is not any of the top 100, 200 agents. None of them. None of them. In fact, you go to those realtor events, not to bust on realtor events, but just events in general. Um, they're not there, right? Now, some of the things, like the WCR and things like that. Yeah, we go there to support agents. So I shouldn't generalize completely there. But to go to brokers opens, again, you're not going to see a high performing agent unless they have a client specific to that property, unless it is a special event. So what do I mean by that? And that's what this slide really talks about, right? So if you make it special, memorable, um, they will come, right? And especially kind of that, I'll say that mid-tier agent, not in terms of performance, but just in production value. Um, they'll go if it's interesting, right? Because again, we want to be entertained. There's this constant need for entertainment. All right, so how do you get to them, right? So you got to come up with an idea, a theme, something's different. Um, signature cocktail, right? This is part of, right? Obviously, the theme isn't going to be about a signature cocktail. But if you decide to have, and I'm not saying you have to have alcohol, but if you decide to have alcohol, or even could be a mocktail. Maybe you have a signature cocktail for the event, right? I gave an example, and we didn't do this for Flamingo, but I had a house or have a listing on Flamingo, a high-end listing. Um, Maybe the Flamingo Fizz, right? Or whatever the drink is that has the name of the house or the street in the name of the drink. Um, Again, just to kind of give a little flair, right? So, and maybe as the host greets them, they offer hey, the drink of the night is the Flamingo Fizz, and you've got a little sign there that kind of explains what's in it. Um, Again, just you're creating an experience. Now, listen, will that get them there? No, because you're probably not going to advertise about the Flamingo Fizz in your email, but you will say if you're going to have beverages, you're going to say something about there being adult beverages. Agents love to show up for booze and food. They do, right? If they're going to show up for anything, it's booze and food. Um, so I always recommend having booze and food at every single no, not a regular open house. Maybe it's would be special on a Sunday or whatever to have champagne or something like that. Um, but you're not going to serve hard, a Flamingo Fizz on on a Sunday afternoon from 1 to 4. I wouldn't do that. You can if you want, but so this is part of a larger piece. So staging enhancements. What I mean by that is like fresh florals, right? So as you come in, you've got a nice flower arrangement. If this is just a regular open house, maybe you've stopped by Publix and gotten some roses or one of their flower arrangements. They're under $10, right? It's not a huge deal to put something nice like that out. Maybe that's setting next to your cookies. Always bake the cookies in the house if you can, because the smell goes through the entire house when you do that. Just another pro tip, even if it's not your house, ask them if you can bake some cookies there and explain why you're doing that, because it just makes the whole house smell good. Um, so things like that. If you've got music playing, it's a curated list. Hopefully you subscribe to some sort of music service, right? So it's not, you don't have commercials that all of a sudden pop on and they're selling, Miracle Ear or something like that. Just kind of awkward moments like that. Um, and again, we've talked about the cellist or maybe it's a local artist. Especially here, we've got several artists actually that work for the brokerage that would love to do like a live painting or something like that, at your event. Um, and maybe that's part of the feature, and you can figure out how to incorporate that in your invitation and your advertising ahead of the time. Um, Okay, timing. So we kind of talked about this. So Thursday night and again, if you just even if you were to chat GPT this, not that I did specific to this, but this is based off of my own experience. It'll tell you Thursday night is kind of the sweet spot for this sort of thing. But again, if it's an event that's around maybe a dinner, maybe you have a dinner party, right, for a really exclusive sort of thing, or maybe it's a brunch, a Sunday morning brunch, then yeah, it'd be normal to have that on Sunday morning. Um, so, okay, partnership activations, right? So this is something that I don't do very often, but I have seen it done to great effect. So, especially for a luxury listing, you are basically what you do there is you look for well, one of the ways to do it is look for adjacent industries that also would be interested in your client base, right? So if you're selling to consumers that are buying a $5 million home, what else would they be interested in, right? If I'm rich, right, we'll put that in parentheses. Um, I'm also going to like nice cars, nice jewelry, nice watches, nice vacations, nice boats, nice, whatever that luxury good list is. Um, Reach out to those people. They don't get opportunities to host pre-made qualified buyers in an entertaining setting like that, right? If I'm a jewelry company, right? If you walk up and down Main Street, there's some expensive jewelry companies. I don't get opportunities to have basically a cocktail 2 hours with a group of people that for the most part I know can afford the stuff I'm selling and probably have a general interest in the stuff I'm selling. That opportunity is not available to jewelry stores. So go to them and say, hey, I've got this event. This is the audience, right? Either they can afford it or they are agents that have clients that can afford it. Get them to help sponsor, defray the cost of if you have a valet service, if it's really nice, or if parking's kind of a mess, That's a cost. If they've got a videographer, that's a cost. If you have a bartender, a cost. If you got to pay your friends to be the host, these are all costs. Um, so give them a spot there. They can set up their little booth or however they want to market their stuff and make sure that kind of fits in with your theme. Give them invitation to the event and have their logo, and it's going to be on the invite. It's going to be on everything, and say, hey, in return for that, I want you to help defray some of the costs, right? So when you're doing all this, it might run $1,000, right? If you're going to have a bartender and some food and some wine, it might run more than that actually. But maybe they chip in 400 or 500, right? Um, Go to a few of them. Now, obviously, don't go to two different jewelers. That'd be awkward. And don't set it up so that people are walking in and they feel like they're walking into the Grand Bazaar, right? Of people trying to hawk their wares and services. Um, so that's one. Or another good one is, a high-end auto dealership, right? They love to park their cars. If you go back to whatever the places are on State Street is called, they would love to go park a Bentley and a Lamborghini and whatever else they sell at your open house. Again, they are selling to a pre-baked audience, right? So they're willing to do that. They may not kick in money, like their return to you would be the fact that they've got really fancy cars out front, right? And that alone will attract people and just make it a memorable experience. But always look to, listen, I'm spend other people's money always in life. If you can spend someone else's money, even if it's in your investments or you're buying a house, whatever, always do that. Especially if the rate is inexpensive, right? Now they're not going to charge you a rate on their money, but they're going to charge you, hey, I got to be there. I got to have a little table, or I've got to, have something on your signage, right? That to me is a fair compromise. Okay. So, all right, control the room. So you're in charge, right? Um, you're basically you got to remember that you're there for a few reasons. Well, you've got to determine this up front, right? Sell the house, obviously, right? That needs to be the first and foremost thing, right? If there is someone there that is interested in buying the house, that is where you spend your time, right? With that person or persons or that agent that is representing the client, right? Mind resetting that thing for me. So you're going to have so your VIPs, don't have them all arrive at the same time. Don't give everyone, if your event starts at 6, um, tell them to get there at 6:15 or 6:30, right? Stagger them. Why would you do that? Carlo, I'm picking on you. Why would you do that? What's that? It flows better. Yeah. So again, you're one person, right? You may have friends that are agents or people that are helping you, but it's your house. You're the listing agent. You're the expert. So if you have these VIP clients come at staggered times, it allows you to spend time with each of them, right? So you're going to spend 5, 10 minutes with one. You know that Frank and Sue are going to get here in 15 minutes, right? It's choreographed. Now they may show up whenever they want, right? That's always the case. But at least you've made an attempt to try and spread them apart if you can. All right. Again, you're a social butterfly, right? Your time is consumed with the people that are most important, but you can't just get sucked into the vacuum of talking to that person all night or talking to an agent for 30 minutes. Again, this is not a social event. It may be for them, but for you, this is a work event. You are working, and people will generally understand that, right? If I'm an agent and oh, hey, Carlos, I'm really good to see you, right? And I'm not going to have a conversation with you that's 20 minutes long. And if I see you break away because you need to talk to somebody, I'm going to be okay with that because I understand what's going on, and most people will. Um, okay, so your personal ambassadors, we talked about that. If you can have someone to hand people off to give them a guided tour of the home, and I always recommend giving guided tours to VIP clients, um, VIP agents and brokers that actually have a client. Um, Obviously, if someone's there from Sarasota Magazine, give them a VIP tour as well, or assign them to one of these ambassadors that you've spent extra time ahead of time showing them the house. having them go over, the details so that they can turn around and speak intelligently on them. Okay. Digital engagement. So again, the QR code check-ins really that is just a disguise for them getting into your CRM, right? And with all of this stuff, if you're still following up on leads with a whiteboard or post-it notes or something like that, or an Excel spreadsheet, um, you really need to get that into a system that you can leverage that does all that crap for you, sends out the daily, weekly texts and emails and newsletters and things like that. Um, okay, interactive elements. So this is something we haven't talked about yet, and this is something that again makes it a performance. It makes it memorable. Um, so what do I mean by that? So basically, you're going to give them a card or something when they check in. Obviously, you're going to give them marketing material, but maybe you've got something that has a card that just points out some memorable things about the home, right? And it's not just like 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2,400 square feet. Um, it is, let's see if that pops back up. Nope. There we go. Okay. Um, sorry, it's this thing right here, this cam link thing just stops every now and then. So, okay. Okay. So getting back to the card. So it's not just the physical characteristics of the home, right? It is something special. Like, let me just make sure I don't go over this in more depth. No. Okay. Maybe there's a special fireplace, right? And in the fireplace, there's like these carvings, and there's like this gremlin or something weird, something memorable, right? Give them a card ahead of time that lists a few things that says, go check out the fireplace and come back and tell me what creature you see in the center carving, right? Just something different, interesting that engages them, and literally give them this on a card and a pen, right? Or have them report back, or maybe when you see them after the tour, you're going to ask them questions, and maybe this is an icebreaker, right? To see if they actually looked and did things. But when you get that and you read that, and maybe again, the host is good, so maybe they start off by reading one of the things, they pick one and they say, be sure to go check out the fireplace, and I want you to come back and tell us what the creature is in the center carving. Um, that way, when they're on the tour, it's not just the two of them and they're talking about what they're going to do for dinner later, or they're actually, there's a mission, and they're like, oh, we got to go check this out, right? And they're looking, it gets them more engaged in the tour itself, and it creates a thing, right? A part of their performance, right? To make this memorable. Now you can go all out, and I put an example. I'm not sharing the screen, but I put an example of you could make this into a clue, right? Interactive clue thing, or like a murder mystery, right? Where this is when you really need friends, or family or other agents that'll help you out. Maybe they're in each room, right? And then when they get to the room, they kind of give the people, whatever. You've seen these clue things where they kind of act out a scene and they give them clues, and then they're going to go to the master bedroom, right? And then Professor Plum's in there, and just this is where you can let your mind race with things. Now, don't get it so it's too complicated, or it's like, cheesy or a little cliche. But something like that, I've never actually seen that done before, or been to a broker's open that has like a murder mystery sort of theme like that. Um, and it doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to spend a lot of money on this. They don't have to be in costume. I mean, if they are, that's great. But again, just something that gets them more engaged. And then, the clue itself, or maybe while they're in the room, the actor is like, oh, I just got out of this beautiful bed and the sunshine, whatever. They try and describe a scene that is, a lifestyle function of the room, right? So it's dual purposed. It's entertainment value, but also you're right. The chandelier is beautiful in this room, right? Like that's the whole point of this. But again, you're creating an experience, because what does this do? In general, they're gonna remember it, right? So any agent that goes to it, They will remember the Brokers Open that had the murder mystery thing with the Clue guys and the really funny guy that was in the master bathroom that was, in the had was in the bathtub in a bubble bath, and he was the actor. And when you get, they're going to remember that, right? And when they remember that, they're going to remember you, and that's always a good thing. Unless it was a complete bomb, right? And it was a terrible experience, but it's not going to. You're going to be successful with this. And besides that, it shows your future clients or the ones down the street the lengths at which you will go to sell that home. Because if you're willing to do that for that home, you're willing to do it for their home, right? So when they sell and they're going to call, you know, Frank and Judy and whoever else that's on the list, um, they don't know what Judy does for Brokers Open, or if she does, she's just standing there and she's greeting and smiling and doing the normal agent thing. But they're going to be like, Carlo had the guy in the bubble bath that was talking to me. Like again, it's just a thing that will create a memorable experience, and that's what you want to do. And a lot of this is in the follow up too, which we'll talk here in a minute. Okay. Told myself I was not going to run over today, but I'm going to run over. Okay, capture and convert. I'll go through this quick. So obviously, if it wasn't on social media, it didn't happen. Right. Now that's a bit of an exaggeration, but um if you have the budget, hire a videographer, a photographer, always have them just take, you know, B-roll. I wouldn't necessarily have, maybe you have a step and repeat. So you're going to take like formal photos and some of that stuff's cool. But really what you're trying to do is show them in the ambiance of the event, right? So if they've got drones, that's really cool. They can have some drone stuff of people coming in and leaving, or maybe there's the cars out front. Capture all of that, right? That is going to be liquid gold for you in social posts, in your future video letters to potential clients and potential agents. All that stuff is like golden content, right? So capture it. This is where you will spend money, right? You're going to spend money on booze, food, videographer, right? Unless you've got somebody that can do that, obviously. But this is where you spend a little money. Don't just do iPhone, right? Have them actually have, a professional to do this. And this is where you can share some of the cost with one of your partners. Or if you don't want to do that, or you're uncomfortable doing that, or it would just kind of take away from the event, this is where you'll actually have to spend money. Okay, convert the crowd. So this is talking a little bit about follow-up, right? So again, you've captured everyone's information, right? Either they've scanned the QR code, or you've at least captured their name, their email address, basic information about agents that were there, um, prospects that were there, press that was there, and you've sorted them, right? So now you're going to start your follow-up, right? You're going to convert the crowd. Obviously, if you can do conversions there, great, right? If somebody says, "Hey, I've got a house. I want you to come take a look at it," obviously that's awesome, right? Um, Usually the magic comes here in the follow-up, right? So immediately within 24 hours, you're gonna reach back out to every single person that attended, and you're going to thank you, right? Thank them, sorry. Um, I'm a big fan of video, so I recommend doing video text, video email. Again, just record a quick, it doesn't have to be long, quick 30 seconds. If you can personalize that. Again, if this was a VIP client, if Frank and Mary came from down the street and they were really impressed and you had a little conversation with them, you're going to send them something personalized, right? It is a 30-second, minute long of you on video. You're literally just saying, "Hey, Frank and Linda, it was great talking to you guys. I really look forward to the opportunity," but below, whatever your message is, and then send them a link to that, right? Or if you're really fancy, you can embed the video so it shows up as this, stop screen, and they click on it. Or maybe it's just a playlist, whatever. You're going to record something personalized for them. And then maybe for everyone else, it's just a generic message that you send out, right? It's not to them specifically, but you maybe you do a couple, right, to agents, right? Hey, Fred, thanks for coming. I appreciate, no, sorry, he wouldn't personalize it. Hey, thank you, colleague for coming. This is how we do open houses, right? Again, if your goal is to try and recruit people, it's going to be a recruiting sort of message. Hey, this is how I do it. If you want to come learn more about EXP, blah, 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 blah. Or maybe it's to get to their clients, right? hey, thank you for coming. If you have a client interested in this property, or maybe it's dual purpose. So whatever, the message is tailored for each kind of bucket. But then for the VIPs, it needs to be personalized. Okay, so that's day one within 24 hours. Um, so you're going to do a text sort of thing. You're also going to do an email, touch them in every way. You've got their email address, you have their text, so use both of them, right? Some people will respond to some people will respond to others. And then follow it up. Day two, or whenever you get kind of the video back in some sort of a sizzle reel, a highlight reel, something like that, um, send that to them, right? Follow on. So you've sent your first day one, day two. Hey, just thought you would want to see, blah, 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 blah. Maybe you do a video introduction ahead of that, and then you cut into the sizzle reel of the stuff, right? Again, you're creating another impression with agents that have clients, agents that might want to join you, um, or VIP clients that might want to list with you or buy the property themselves. Um, so that's what I would send that, and that's when you start sending out, doing your socials. Again, you've paid for all that video and photo content. Use it, right? Whether it's a long form video that you put up on your YouTube channel that is 2 minutes long, or it is a 90-second reel you put on Instagram and Facebook, or it's a 15-second story, right? It's all of those things, right? So short form, cut it up, right? If your videographer does that, great. If not, there are things can subscribe to online where you put in that 2-minute video and it'll cut it up into chunks for you. It'll do voiceover if there's voice, all that stuff. Start leveraging this service. There are these, services. Again, if you don't know who does that, Google it. If not, come talk to me, all right, or Matt or someone else. Um, okay, so I'm not going to get into follow up too much here, but the important thing to note is these are now in your CRM, right? Or they should be. Use it, follow up, right? You've got new leads, you've got new neighbors, right? Keep touching them, right? So digitally, maybe you look up their address and you send them a mailer with, your listing book. Just keep touching them, right? Don't be overbearing, but you want to be top of mind. This is all part of your farming technique. Um, for the neighborhood, right? And when you have events like this, stuff like this is really the key to leveraging. We talked about leveraging one listing and into 5 transactions. Um, this is how you do it, right? You've got one listing, but you're going to leverage that into other transactions. Okay, now my screen freeze, didn't it? Okay. Um, Maybe it's this cam link thing. All right, so continuing on here. All right, so again, more of the touch point strategy, right? So if it is a VIP client, why wouldn't you? Sorry, I'm just trying to get my video to work again. There we go. Um, so we already talked about pre-listing, right? And you're going to send them a physical package ahead of the listing, right? So if you got a VIP client, you don't know they're going to list yet, um, but they're very interested. They showed up, right? They had a good time. Why wouldn't you also send them a package in the mail, right? Something that they get, they open up. It's a very high quality, high touch. Maybe there's a box. I've got some photos there. One of the nice boxes they open, um, that has, a handwritten letter, thank you letter from you. And it's the same thing. It's in a special envelope and you wax sealed it. But then you also throw in some old school photos, like print out some photos of the list of the event, right? If there's photos with them in it, obviously, yeah. Put a couple photos of them, right? The cars, the house, whatever, the pool, um, something they can touch, right? And then include some other stuff, obviously your business cards, some also, brochure marketing stuff. Don't send them like a box of crap, right? It has to be few items, but high touch, high value items. And again, your intent is I'm following up with you digitally. I'm following up with you in mail. What message does that send, right? If I'm doing that for you, if I get your house to sell, I'm going to do that as your client. I'm going to reach out to buyers just like you digitally, in person. I'm doing the extra stuff, right? That is what builds your name and your influence as a luxury agent, um, is doing things like that, right? So, okay, recruiting strategy. Apologize for the graphics here. Oh, that's not going to work. Why did I touch it? Hold on, guys. Let me adjust my frame. Okay. You guys can all see that now, right? Okay, so recruiting strategy. I won't touch the graphics to correct them on the presentation. But basically, we just talked about this, right? So, you're going to follow up immediately, right? Don't let this pass by 5 days. People will forget Carlo in the tub after 5 days. They probably won't actually, but you want to be top of mind right away, right? Um, Behind the scenes reel, right? And some soft recruiting stuff. Again, this is just all media you're going to capture, right? So maybe in your video that you send to potential clients, there's a little bit about the setup and the behind the scenes. They show it's not just the production, but it's the effort that went into that, right? So as soon as you setting up, it shows you, maybe positioning, if you've got cars out front, positioning the cars a little bit. You're trying to convey that you're going through a lot of work here. And it really does increase your conversion rate, although you can't see what that number is. So we're going to leave that a secret. Okay, so that really is the end of this. I'll offer or I'll ask some questions. I guess I did end pretty much on time. So I'm going to send you some stuff. So um, basically have this in a playbook, a PDF that I'll provide. I'll send to you guys or make this as a resource. I've got a budget breakdown for open houses, right? And it'll be like a full on, if this were a $5 million listing, what that costs, right? What it costs me, I should say, videographer, budget for if there's a DJ or a cellist, whatever. Um, so that you can kind of get a general idea of what that cost is going to be. Again, scale it. If this is a regular Sunday open house, you're not going to spend that much money, but it'll give you an idea of a budget, right? So what that helps with is when you go out and you're talking to the jewelry shop or the car guy or whoever, right? You've got an idea of what this is going to cost you, right? If you know it's going to cost you $1,000, then wow, I should be trying to get at least a couple $100 from this person, right? Don't let them give you $50 to set up a booth in your thing. Like that's, um, so we'll give you that. And certainly some of so just so you know, this Lux Loop, and these are all brands that we're gonna be introducing a luxury agent accelerator program called LuxeScale, and it's basically a combination of digital training modules, a whole course, a whole library of courses for 4 different phases of basically entering and then thriving in the luxury market. So whenever you see that brand on there, Lux Scale and Lux Loop is one of the phases of that. That's what that's referring to. Sorry, so I'm trying to position the brand ahead of that a little bit. So I'm going to give you some stuff. We'll provide this presentation, obviously, and then some resources along with it. If you guys have any questions at all, I can well, let's see, I get you up on chat. I don't see any questions. You're welcome, guys. Absolutely. Um, if you need something in the future, if you don't know how to do something, or you're just curious, or you just want a game plan, kind of, I've got the last slide here. You can't see it, but it basically is set up a one-on-one call with me, right? I'll talk you through, or we can just get creative together. I'm decent about thinking outside of the box for ideas and how to be creative with things. Um, certainly want to do that, or specifically if you just, have questions, that's what we're here for. So, all right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.